Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe, and today I'm going to be presenting a list of the offensive linemen in the draft this year who would quite possibly fit Klint Kubiak's offensive scheme. I wanted to get ahead on this because this is something that everyone's going to do next week. So I've put in the work, and I'll tell you what I've done. Apparently, and we're not sure yet, but Klint Kubiak's going to be the Saints' new offensive coordinator. If that happens, we have some history to go on. He, as well as Kyle Shanahan, apparently like to run a zone run blocking scheme. They like to get their offensive linemen on the move. They like to do a lot of stuff like screens and sweeps and stuff like that. They like to move the pocket. And in order for that to happen, you're going to have a certain type of offensive line. Not sure if the pieces the Saints currently have can do this stuff or not. We've seen the Saints do a lot of stuff. We run multiple different run schemes, and our offensive line's good at some of it, not so good at others. You know, sometimes when you get screenplay game going, it seems like the Saints are really good at it. And then there's sometimes when Andres Pete gets out there and he looks lost. You know, there's sometimes when James Hurst doesn't get out there good enough, fast enough. Yeah, we try to do a lot of things in our offensive scheme. I think that Klint Kubiak scheme is actually going to be a smaller playbook and easier language, and maybe the offensive lineman won't be asked to do a bit of everything. You have to do a bit of everything. But I think primarily, if it's Klint Kubiak, we're going to have offensive linemen that need to be agile, they need to be quick, they need to be good on the move. So the first thing I did was I looked up all of the offensive linemen as far as their overall run blocking grade goes. And I got a list of about 40 or 50 of them, the top run blockers according to ratings. And then from there, I examined each player to see if they had the physical tools to be able to do this blocking scheme, or if they've done it before in their college. And, tried to make some projections. So this is going to be a quick list, but it's nice. I want to get ahead of everybody else on this because this is something that's going to affect the draft this year. So the first two players I'm going to mention, the top of the cream of the crop, these are guys that are highly rated tackles who also seem to be able to, fit this scheme should we employ it. And first, I'm going to talk about Talise Fuaga. You know, he's the best right tackle prospect. Some people think he can switch sides. Some people think he can play guard. But he's probably the number 3 overall rated tackle right now in this class. And I always mock him to the Saints if we pick at 14 and stay there, because I think the top 2 left tackles will be going in the top 10, and it's going to be a race to go and get these next 3 or 4 tackles. Most of them play on the right side, and they're all kind of bunched up together, but I think Fuaga's the best of the bunch as far as plug and ready to go, as far as being good on run and pass, and he's got movement skills. So Talise Fuaga is a guy that you got to look for in the first round. And in the next offensive tackle, now I'm not mentioning Joe Alt because Joe Alt's going to be drafted. If Joe Alt was there, we would grab him. I'm pretty sure if Fashanu was there, we would grab him too. It'd be a interesting transition for Fashanu, but the skill, the ability's there. And then, Fuaga to me is the sure thing. And then the next guy you should look at is J.C. Latham out of Alabama. He's on that short list of best tackles in the class, and he's very athletic, and he's got some movement skills. So there's something to look for. I mean, I believe when you take Klint Kubiak's higher into consideration, and then you start to adjust these tackles. I was high on Amarius Mims, but when I look at the run grade and then I look at the potential for this zone run scheme, it seems like Latham would fit it a heck of a lot better than Mims. Now, Mims is a great player. I'm just saying that if you had your choice before, I would have picked Mims, but at this point, I'm probably leaning more towards Latham. Now, I'm going to mention three other guys that are first round projections. They don't necessarily project top notch at zone run, but they are such good prospects that you kind of assume that they can do it. And that would be Graham Barton out of Duke and Amarius Mims out of Georgia, Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. Those guys are late first round projections. And although they don't project as good in this scheme as other players, they have so much ability that I think you can take a chance on these guys and they'll adapt to the scheme quite nicely. There are a lot of other players who are first, second round projections that don't fit into the scheme naturally. And I'll wait till the end of the video to mention those guys because they are wild cards, because they're so talented. They could adopt to this scheme. But I'm going to mention other guys that seem fit and ready for this scheme. First, I'm going to talk about Christian Haynes, the guard out of UConn. He was at the Senior Bowl, looked good. He was hovering around third round projection, and now he's vaulted into the second round. And I believe he becomes a real possibility for the Saints in the second round because of his apparent ability to play this zone run. Some other guys you can look at, Drake Nugent out of Michigan. He's a center. He projects to be center or guard. And he'd be really good in this system. I believe when it's all said and done, he'll be a fourth round projection. And then we'll talk about Christian Jones out of Texas. He's a tackle. He was at the Senior Bowl. They had him play in multiple positions, and he looked pretty good. Both sides of the line, he looked good at guard. A lot of people didn't know if he would project a guard. I think at this point, after the Senior Bowl, people are projecting Jones to be a pretty good guard. And regardless of what position he plays, he fits the zone blocking scheme pretty good. Those are three guys that I have high on my list. I think Jones might have played himself into a fourth round projection, third or fourth round, So I think these guys fit the scheme really good. I'm also going to mention three other guys here. Dominique Pooney out of Kansas. He was mocked to the Saints in the second round by one of the top guys, Jeremiah Trotter or one of those guys. And I thought that was crazy. Pooney, there's so many good offensive linemen, and Pooney to me is a late second, third round projection. Too many good players ahead of him to be grabbing him with the 45th pick in the second round, and I still feel that way. But Pooney's looked good at the Senior Bowl as well. He projects to be tackle or guard, could play both sides of the line, and he would fit the scheme very well. So if the Saints fall in love with him and actually do grab him in the second round, I won't be crazy mad about it. I'm going to mention Isaiah Adams here. He's out of Illinois, and he fits this scheme very well. This guy was a fifth round projection. I believe he's at the Senior Bowl, and there's going to be a little buzz on him. He's looked solid. So you may have to try to grab him in the third or fourth round. Then you got McCade Natal out of Oklahoma. This guy's a tackle, and he's a very lowly rated player. Like, at this point, he's not even supposed to be drafted. But apparently he fits the scheme. And he's one of those guys I guess you can look for in the very, very late round, 7th round pick, or, primary rookie undrafted. Yeah, so those are guys that seem to fit the scheme well. Now I'm going to mention a handful of players real quick that are highly rated players, probably 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round projections. But they're not 100% perfect for the scheme. There's some questions, but they're better for the scheme than a lot of the other people out there. So I'll throw them up and mention them real quick. Connor Bebe out of Kansas State, Matthew Jones out of Ohio State, Bo Limmer out of Arkansas, Cedric Van Pran, who's very highly rated, probably 2nd round guy out of Georgia, Christian Mahogany out of Boston College. He's looking at 3rd, 4th rounder. Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. He may be one of the top interior linemen taken. He just doesn't naturally fit this scheme, not as well as other players do. And then you got Kieran Amingaji out of Yale, who's a swing tackle guard type, and he's also a 3rd round projection. He could fit into the scheme as well. Now, these guys, there's hope. They're highly rated players, especially Van Pran and Frazier, who might go in the 2nd round. Yeah, all these guys are good players, and they'd be worth taking in the 3rd or 4th round, and then hopefully they adopt to the system. Now, these 3 players I'm going to mention are very highly rated players that just don't seem to transition into this scheme at all. And these are guys I'm high on, but with this scheme, you might have to pass. And it breaks my heart, but Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon is one of those guys. He's so good, he's so talented, and I wouldn't put it past him to be able to do this scheme and do it well. But he is more of a big mauler. And so, if I have my choice between him and somebody else that fits the scheme way more naturally, I'd have questions there. But Jackson Powers Johnson has played himself in the Senior Bowl practices into the 1st round, without a doubt. Now, I thought he was the best interior offensive lineman at center, and I thought he'd be a 2nd round pick. But somebody's going to grab Jackson Powers Johnson in the 1st round. Just not the Saints, I don't think. Javon Foster out of Missouri. I always liked him. He started the season at about a 5th round draft pick. I'm not sure if he's played his way into a better pick or not. Some people are now talking about 2nd, 3rd round for this guy. Yeah, I like him, but doesn't fit our scheme very well. So, if he's there in the 4th or 5th round, you take him. But at this point, the teams that are clamoring for him at the 2nd round, 3rd round, I mean, it seems like it would be a pretty high pick for the Saints, given the zone run scheme we want to play. And then Zach Zinter out of Michigan. I believe he had the injury concerns, and although he's got top 3 round talent, people weren't sure where he was going to fall. I've always had Zinter pegged as a 3rd rounder, and now knowing that we may be a zone run team, Zinter probably doesn't fit that very well. So these are 3 guys, highly rated guys, that just might not fit our scheme. Wanted to get ahead of everybody else on this. I put in the work because I'm passionate about it. I'm interested in it. I want to know who we should be grabbing. The Senior Bowl is today, so I missed my opportunity to do a breakdown of that. But I'm constantly talking about the draft here. So subscribe to Rosenfield 10, and you will get updates on all of that and more videos like this. And until then, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?